Good evening and welcome to another episode of Late Night with Lenette. I'm Lenette Peterson, your host. We're going to be talking about your Second Amendment rights and we're talking gun safety this evening. My guest is an NRA certified firearms instructor and a former Marine. Welcome, Joel, to the show.
Thank you, ma'am.
It's always a pleasure to see you.
Pleasure to see you also.
Last time I saw you was up in Concord. You were there watching your wife in Reps Hall.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, very good. Now, you're an NRA certified instructor. Does it matter if your firearm instructor is NRA certified or not?
There are different programs that are throughout the country with different organizations of different types of training. Utah Second Amendment group has one, NRA has one. Some states require state police programs to participate in to have concealed firearms permits in those states. So it depends. But it helps to be versed in lots of types of training. I trained people when I was in the Marine Corps. I also have an NRA certificate for law enforcement instruction from when I was in law enforcement previously, and also as a regular instructor. I do the Boy Scouts, I do the Civil Air Patrol and the youth program and Women on Target program and Hunter Education program for the state of New Hampshire. Averages about 28 days a year. I volunteer my time to instruct people in those organizations to, again, bring public safety and awareness to people who are seeking out that information and want to participate in these types of sports.
Oh, wow. Yeah, a few years ago, I always get to pick the activity on Mother's Day. And I think it was 2 years ago, we had Susan Olson and her husband come to the house.
Very pleasant lady.
Train my family on handgun safety. And we all got certified with basic handguns. That was our Mother's Day activity. It was so cool.
I actually had a gentleman gave his wife and his daughter a gift certificate for an NRA handgun class.
There you go.
And I called her on the phone to let her know that the study material was in and her husband could pick it up anytime, or she couldn't. She was so excited. She said, "This is the best Christmas gift my husband has ever given me."
Oh, so. Yeah. Let's see, my first handgun was an anniversary present. My second handgun was a Christmas present. Yeah. So now, how long have you been a firearm instructor?
I've been training people with firearms almost 35 years now.
Oh, wow.
Since I was in the Marine Corps. I started handling firearms at 5, shooting actively at 8 years old. Third award expert in the United States Marine Corps, and pretty proficient with most different types of firearms. Understanding that there's about 57,000 different types of firearms on the planet. So there's multitudes of firearms, so no one can be knowledgeable of every single firearm. So if I have participants in class that are bringing their specific firearm, I integrate that into the class. I also do study for about a week with the owner's manual of that device so that I know the thoroughness of it inside and out, what you can do and shouldn't do with the firearm for training purposes. Dry firing especially, not to damage the firing pin and things of that nature, assembly, disassembly, cleaning, and things of that, so that when my students come to my class, I can be proficient in that specific firearm that they're bringing to the class.
Oh, wow. Now, is there say I'm calling you for the first time, never handled a firearm of any kind. Is it better to start with a handgun, a long barrel gun, a shotgun, a rifle? What's the best gun to start with? Is there a best gun?
With the youth programs that I do, we usually stop people with the bench dress single shot 22 rifle because of the simplicity of it. Long guns are easier to handle, less apt to be pointing them at someone. But most of the people that are adults that consult me for training are mostly for handgun training. We want people to understand safety and knowledge of responsibility of ownership of a firearm. And the other point is that we don't want them to go buy a firearm without having knowledge of why they're buying that firearm. There needs to be a purpose. It needs to biomechanically fit your person properly. I'm hoping that your husband didn't go buy a Desert Eagle 50 caliber handgun.
Fortunately not.
But you can see where, they go with their husband or their boyfriend or whatever, and they think, well, the boyfriend thinks this is going to be apropos. I had 2 women 2 weeks ago. One was 67, one was 65. And they both had the same handguns that their husband bought them. They were so small they could very hard to manipulate and operate. I actually cut my finger and broke 2 fingernails, which has never happened. I've broken a fingernail once or cut myself once, but 2 fingers and 1 cut in one day was a lot. So actually they saw a lot and realized that this may not be a proficient device to protect themselves with.
Now, what's the number one reason people call you to have you train them in firearm safety?
Mostly for personal safety.
Personal protection?
Because of society, the change of society. The average heroin addict's addiction is $1,000 a week. That's a lot of money to support a drug habit. And so there are a lot of homes that are being broken into. People are constantly being robbed. Cars are being broken into. Safety mostly of their well-being. People that have husbands that have firearms that have never been involved with it because they want to know and have semblance of safety and security because they think because it's in a safe something bad's going to happen, but then they realize in itself the gun is not dangerous. Only when you have a human being intervention with it that something will.
Right, yeah, guns won't kill until some whack job decides to get a hold of it.
It took a while for Sherry because we have no children at the house. They're
yeah.
all adults. That would leave the firearms readily available, and she was always worried that the cats were gonna. I'm like,
they have no thumbs.
Yeah, they're not gonna pull the trigger.
Yeah, they're not gonna be able to.
The cats aren't gonna bother the guns. I mean, sniff them, but the gun can't.
Oh, too funny. Yeah, no, my dogs have never. No, they've never even. I don't think my dogs have even sniffed it. And usually it's not out and about unless my husband's out of town, and then my 380's probably in my bathrobe pocket or on my recliner, on the arm of my chair. But
again, having mindset to understand that crime can happen.
Oh, exactly.
Women are more susceptible to assault because people that are criminally insane believe that they're going to be able to overcome people that are females more readily than males,
right.
Which again, underestimating people can be not that detrimental to your well-being. So never underestimate anyone today, especially women, because a lot of women participate in those things, take self-defense training. It's important, again, to self-preservation is the most important thing to all people, because people that are taken and stolen from us, and I've had it happen in my lifetime. My brother's girlfriend was a victim of being kidnapped, and they found her naked body in a state forest. It affected my brother's life. My uncle was shot by a gentleman that didn't have a green card to be in this country, left my 4 cousins and my aunt without a father and a husband. And just recently, last year, one of my cousins was murdered. His oldest daughter was murdered in Dallas, Texas. So violence, even though it wasn't right directly me, but people that are the tentacles of my life and the voids that now are in those people's lives, alter their lives forever.
Well, yeah, no kidding. And it only takes once. One bullet can end a life. And that's why it's always important to get trained by a certified instructor. You don't want the guy down the street teaching you how to shoot your gun.
Actually, a lot of people that come to see me, their husbands were in the service.
Yep.
Actually have other instructors bring me their wives because they realize the close proximity of their love and their relationship, that they're not going to be successful in instructing them. So they seek me out to provide their wives instruction and further their education and make them feel comfortable, not complacent. There's a difference, because there is a lot of subject matter. There's a lot of mindset with the ownership or responsibility just to be involved in firearms. Someone who's never done it, where you've grown up with it, it's one thing. But if you start at 40, 50, 60, 70 years of age, and I had an 80-year-old student back in December, he hadn't shot a firearm since 1959 when he was in the Marine Corps.
Oh, wow.
And he came in and he had bought a handgun because he had asked his pastor if it was all right to bring a handgun to church, and him and the assistant pastor pulled up in their shirt and both showed him that they were armed. So the patron realized it was okay to come to worship with his firearm. And so he came. 1959 was the last time he had shot. He hadn't lost a heartbeat, though. Let me tell you, he was pretty proficient and accurate with everything
very good.
that he
Yeah,
shot,
I guess it's like riding a bike.
Yeah.
Once you learn. Yeah, and it's funny. I learned how to shoot. I mean, I'm right-handed.
Yeah.
So of course, I learned how to shoot right-handed. There was a legislative shooters day my first term. Found out I'm left eye dominant. So now I can shoot both hands.
That's awesome.
So when we go to the range for practice, I shoot with both hands just to keep them both proficient, because you never know what pocket I'm going to put them. Is best to put my handgun in. If I grab with my right, I got to be able to shoot. If it's the left, I got to be able to shoot.
I always enjoy when I get to somewhere where there's a firing range and someone has one of the firearms that I have that's identical, and that way I show them how to shoot with both hands simultaneously, because if you have the same gun in each hand, it's very easy to do that with muscle memory, but it's difficult to shoot two different size guns or two different caliber guns.
Yep.
But if they're both the same because of the muscle coordination between your left and your right side, it's pretty easy to be proficient shooting with both your left and right hands simultaneously. It sort of shocks people when they see that. But
yeah, I've never tried that. We don't have two guns that are the same.
I don't have. That's why usually if I'm at the range somewhere and someone has the same gun, I'll watch this, and they're always amazed that I load their gun and then I load my gun, and they're sort of like wondering what I'm going to do. And then when I take both guns and shoot the guns simultaneously with both hands, they're like. And be on the target proficient, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And,
wow. Now, you brought some toys with you. Well, I shouldn't call them toys, but these are training devices, yep. Can you tell me about a revolver and...
We have a lot of people that are so apprehensive about firearms when they come that they can't even hold a firearm because they've never done it before. So these... Again, we treat them accordingly like they would be real firearms, but it's obvious that they're training devices just to help them be comfortable holding them. I want to make sure they're getting a good grip, a good stance, and things like that. So to overcome some of the fear that they may have of handling a firearm, and it happens in hunter education all the time, where we're handing people firing devices that have no firing pins. The rifles and shotguns have no firing pins, and they're orange just like this, so they're obviously training devices. How apprehensive people are just to receive that, knowing that they actually work but they don't discharge. Where these the training devices that are obviously plastic, we can work with people with their grip and their stance and understanding sight alignment and sight picture if they have a physical problem trying to get acclimated to holding a real gun, which some people do. And I can usually sense in the beginning of my class if people are having apprehensions. So sometimes a lot of classes end up being 2 days instead of 1 day, because I want people to be comfortable and relaxed at doing this. To be a great shooter, you have to be like meditation. You have to slow your heart down and your respiratory down to become a great shooter. So I want people to become comfortable from the beginning, to be successful from the beginning. Nothing more discouraging than start shooting at a target and you're not hitting it. So all of my students, maybe I put a little pressure on them by indicating that my target frame is 17 years old and no one's ever shot it yet. So, and
but you're lucky. My husband makes went out of PVC piping, and then has a wire that we can clip the targets on. And we'll go out to a friend of ours has a sand pit, so we have a free range to go to. And his PVC frame doesn't last more than a month. Someone's always hitting that, and you'll see this big chunk of PVC go flying, and then the frame will tilt, and it's like, oh, time to get a new one.
But those are, again, working with the students that I work with. I make sure that they have a great foundation. I teach them fundamental training they do at home with these different types of training devices. Some of them are orange, as you can see here. These are actually dummy rounds. They're not snap caps, but these are advantageous to be able to load and unload the firearm. That's what these are. These are snap caps also, but they can be dry fired the firearm. So usually the orange ones that are like that aren't readily available. They're different manufacturers, and you can see these are on a speed strip, something that a lot of people are unfamiliar with. Works similar to a speed loader like this here device to speed load your revolver quickly. Speed strips are a little more apropos because these are very bulky. These devices here, you can toss them right in your back pocket and have quite a few bullets with you and still be able to load the revolver properly. So these...
Now, your training handguns, are they like the actual weight and everything else?
Oh yeah, we have 14 handguns that all my students go through. We start with revolvers, where we go with the 357 revolver because these devices are a lot easier to use to load. We have a 357 single action gun, which is like the cowboys used to use, so they get a chance to use those. And we have a model 6.17, 6-inch barrel revolver. It looks like Dirty Harry, but it actually shoots 22s. And we take the training devices to load with the 22, so they realize how these devices are easier to manipulate than a little 22 cartridge,
Right.
and load the revolvers properly.
Boy, but 357. So those are heavy guns.
But a lot of my students come with snub-nosed revolvers, so
Gotcha.
they need to understand that the weight of the gun as a training device is more apropos, less damage to your body than shooting a snub-nosed revolver. The purpose of having the larger gun, again, so that, again, women developing muscle skills, lifting the firearm up in front of them, again, not beating their body, causing nerve damage by shooting the same caliber bullet through this gun and this gun compared to a snub nose that might be an air light. Yeah, a lot of energy coming back into your body. So understanding that the larger the gun, the less energy gets transferred back to yourself. And you'd get a device like this to train with. You would practice with your snub nose, but you could go shoot 50, I stop my students at like 20 bullets to 50 bullets to work their way up. To be shoot 100 through this, there's no way you're going to take a snub-nosed revolver. Even myself, with all the years I have, would not torture my body by shooting 100 rounds to a snub-nosed revolver.
Yeah, the recoil would just, oh my word.
And the energy that's coming back into your hand causes irreversible nerve damage. So we discussed that, why we use the gentleman I was telling you, 80 years old. He had a subcompact 45. I ran him on a full frame 45 after we ran him on the 22 revolver and the 22 semi-automatic. Then that way he went from a small caliber bullet to a big caliber bullet, but with a bigger gun. And then so he would get acclimated again to shooting a large caliber firearm and then shooting a subcompact gun that's a lot smaller, a lot lighter with the same bullet again, so that I could ease him into, you know, not having a small teeny gun exploding in his hands.
Now your orange one there, it's pretty similar to my first handgun is a Bucksmart 22.
Buckmart,
Buckmart 22 long barrel.
Yeah, beautiful gun. That's one of the guns that we use to train with.
And it's a fun gun. It's nice and heavy, very accurate.
Beautiful firearm.
Oh, very accurate. When we're having just games at the target for accuracy, I always go for my 22.
Oh yeah.
You don't need I don't need stopping power. Just shooting the targets.
Great fundamental training device.
Yeah, that gun is such a fun gun. It's very similar look to that.
This is falls along in 1911, which is a 45 ACP, which developed in the First World War for young men that were 17, 18, 19 years old. Again, working on proper grip, laying it into your hand, things of that nature there. With this type of firearm, the same thing with the revolver, placement in the hand, because grip is important. And you'll see a lot of people, they'll go like this with their thumb instead of like this, and every time they move their hand here, they're changing their grip on the firearm. So those are things that we work on training people, how to use both hands and be proficient.
Big difference between the revolver and non-revolver. Is one better than the other? Is it better to have a revolver? Or?
A lot of my students, I start with revolvers because it's simplicity. A lot of people don't have muscle memory to cycle the firearm in close to them to have the strength to cycle the firearm. Sherry, the same thing. She started with the revolver until she developed the strength to be able to manipulate the firearm so that it was safely being movable and understanding, again, under duress. You want to be able to function and facilitate to save your life and not be struggling to use a piece of equipment. So again, a lot of simplicity with revolvers, but again, you have to become proficient loading and unloading the thing again under duress, where again, semi-automatic handguns have a lot of volume of cartridges that are inside there. So you may have more firepower, but firepower is nice, but consistency and cool and calm collectiveness is what's going to save your life.
Yep.
Been in a gunfight, been in multiple assailant assaults, knife attacks, dog attacks. So the things that I train people in mindset besides marksmanship are things that make them successful to go home successfully to their family. I believe that's the most important thing, that you are the most important person in the world to you. And if you come into a violent confrontation, that you have to make sure that the person that came after you realizes this is going to be the worst day of his life, and you're going to fight to stay alive and go home to your family, because it's important.
Right, oh yeah. Now you got a couple locks out there.
Most firearms come with these types of locks. This is a cable lock. It's very difficult with cable locks. All the manufacturers do this because to meet the federal guidelines. The problem with these devices is with the revolvers, the cylinder has to remain open on the firearm for it to be functional, because you'd run this down through the barrel and then it becomes difficult to store the firearm. The same thing with the semi-automatic handguns. The spring sits like this normally, so when it's compressed down like this, because it has to be locked to the open position, all that duress on that spring being compressed doesn't allow it to sit in the natural state. So it doesn't want to return to normal because it's been under compression for so long. It's the same thing with magazines. All of my students, I tell them, don't load the magazines to full capacity, one less. The gun that I carry is a 13 shotgun. I have 1 in the chamber, 10 in the magazine. That's all I need. I don't compress the magazines to full capacity, crushing them so that they can't return back to natural state. The other thing is I advocate that people have a minimum of 4 to 6 magazines so that they can cycle those magazines out every month or so that they're not under duress for extended periods of time, because when they need to function, you want them to work. And if they've been loaded for 6 months or a year, or sometimes even worse, people load them and never change them out, and then they wonder why their gun isn't operating. It's because the magazine spring is not returning back to relaxed state.
Well, that's the first time I've heard that. Wow. Wonder how long mine's been in my...
And it's just food for thought for people.
Yeah.
Again, the gun that I carry on my person, I have 14 magazines for that. So I get changed every month. I'll change those magazines out. So only twice every 8 months, the magazines that I'm on my person will be used. Again, longevity of them, not so much with Glocks, but other firearms like Ruger, Smith & Wesson, some of the other manufacturers manufacture so many different types of firearms. At some point, they may not manufacture that firearm anymore, and then it becomes difficult to locate those devices that are magazines to replace worn-out ones or damaged ones from training, things of that nature there.
Wow.
So,
Now,
it's
what do you think is a good... Do you recommend handguns for, like, say, personal protection and conceal for your students? Or is it just personal preference?
I advocate to people to get a carry permit. Doesn't mean that they need to carry a firearm.
Right, but if they wanted to, say I came to you, I took your class, and I say, hey, I'm working in Manchester now. I want to conceal. Do you recommend, if someone asked you, what would you recommend for me to conceal? I have the permit. What should I have? Do you give recommendations, or you just tell them to see what fits them best?
What fits them best and what's going to work 95% of the time. I'm very blessed and fortunate that, again, Representative Lebrecht is there with me, so she has had to go through, like yourself, wardrobe changes. Women's clothes are a lot more challenging than men's clothes, where we have a pair of pants and a belt on most of the time. Women's clothes are very challenging, so having purses, waist bags, things that look like camera bags. It's taken her now a year and a half since she got her Glock 43 to find a holster that fits in the back of her pants properly, that she's comfortable with. Exterior belt holsters, occasionally she'll wear that when she's wearing her snub-nose revolver. So there's a lot of different things that have to play into effect, again, your biomechanics of how your body is, how big of a gun, how small of a gun. The woman that was involved in the shooting in Manchester in January, February.
Right, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, she had a 32 ACP. The gentleman had a heavy coat on. It permeated the coat, broke his collarbone, went into his shoulder bone. His shoulder blade, and stopped. But she realized that she had never fired the gun. She was the luckiest woman on the planet that day.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I have a 380 LCP, and I always wore a jacket up at the State House, and fit nicely in my jacket pocket.
Yeah.
And looked like a cell phone. You didn't know.
And again, because the challenges that women face,
Right.
Physical strength, one of the problems Sherry has from cutting hair for all those years, for 35 years with scissors. One of her first semi-automatics, which was a bodyguard, was very, very distinct trigger pull, so it was hard for her to pull the trigger. So that's why she went to look at the Glock and found something that her hand could squeeze properly and not strain her hand.
Right. Now, I've heard that you don't want to get anything smaller than maybe, I think it was a 9 mil, because like a 22 wouldn't have stopping power. Is this correct?
Again, in the east is very difficult because a lot of people are wearing heavy clothes.
Right, yeah.
Guys wearing leather motorcycle jackets. Again, is it going to permeate it?
Right.
Those are things that can, well, 22s kill people, yes. They're killed more human beings than any other caliber in the history of mankind. And I've had a couple of students ask me that. And when they take the revolver, the 617 that looks like Dirty Harry with
Right,
the
yeah.
22s in it, and I run 10 bullets through it, and there's a hole in the center of it, they realize, yes, this is a plausible device, but that's one of the reasons why the FBI got away from 9 millimeters. In 1984, they shot a gentleman 34 times, and he made it 75 feet before he collapsed because, again, body mass, the gentleman weighed
Right.
400 pounds. The cartridges, the projectiles rather, never made it into the torso to drop the blood pressure. It got caught up in fatty tissue. That's one of the, it's difficult with 38s because they're very, very powerful snub-nose revolvers. But I explained to people when the New York police carried Model 10 similar to this revolver here, 500 police shootings, 499 of men with one bullet. So that's a pretty good ratio of when, again, to stop someone that's a male, and I may be perceived that's big, but one of my students a month ago had a size 16 ring. The guy was 6'4",
Whoa.
a metal worker, yeah, 16 ring. He held my Glock 21. It looked like a little snub-nosed handgun in his hand. So again, depending on the size of the person that you're attacking, and if there's multiple assailants that can come into play, ballistics, again, permeating people's clothes, and again, eliminating the threat, because that's what we're trying to do, is stop the threat.
Right.
Again, a lot of this is way outside the auspice of NRA basic training, but those are things that I'll explain to people. This is outside the NRA training. This is mindset, so you know why we're training with the handgun, with the snap caps, loading and unloading with these devices at our home, practicing muscle memory, cycling, loading, unloading, trigger pull, maintaining sight alignment, so that when we go to the range, we're utilizing our time to the best of our capability and not just meandering and wasting ammunition that's expensive. When all the great shooters you see on TV that are on those TV shows, that's what they're using, is dry firing techniques at home and practicing muscle memory.
Yeah. Well, we're coming to the end of the show. It goes by quick. Folks, you know, it's important. If you're going to handle firearms, it's always good to go to a certified instructor. And hey, the way things are going, you never know how long they're going to be available. If it's in the back of your mind that, hey, maybe I want to be a little safer, have a gun at home, look into it. Check a NRA certified instructor or any certified instructor. Plenty of good gun shops around. You can find a good price, a good handgun, someone there that can give you the best advice, what gun is best for your body. You know, I wouldn't want a 50 caliber. I wouldn't be able to lift the thing, but it's something that's very important. I thank you so much for being on the show. I thank you for tuning in. Good night and God bless.